Hello, everyone. I'm your host of Power Trip, and welcome to another amazing week of the Culture Cache, bringing you the next issue. This week we have a special fan request issue, as one of our Patreon members by the name of Tainty has requested her next issue to be about Steven Universe. Now, while I'm on the topic, real quick, before we get started with this next issue, two things I want to cover real quick is if you haven't already, please check out past issues of the next issue, as well as other episodes of some of our other great shows here on the Culture Cache. The second thing I want to cover real quick is I want to say thank you to Tainty for her donation and her request, and a shout out to all my fans. If you have any requests at all, any special issues you would like me to cover regarding comics in general, any certain issues or characters or anything like that, please feel free to donate to Patreon and hear our show here at the Culture Cache and request anything that you would like. We really appreciate it. Thank you everyone for watching. Now, for anyone who's not seen it or heard of it before, Steven Universe is a cartoon series actually right now going on that has, I think it's still on its second season and has actually been renewed for season 3. I personally have only recently gotten into the show itself and am actually now a very big fan of the show. For anyone that's curious, my favorite characters are pretty much just about all the characters you've got on there. I love Connie, Amethyst, Pearl, Garnet, Steven. All the characters they have on there, I absolutely adore. With that being said, though, like I said before, I am new to this show, so there's a lot of things I'm still catching up on myself. Several episodes that I haven't seen yet. But, once again, this is actually about the comics, which I didn't know that they even had comics for until recently. Now, the comics themselves are in a little bit of a flux, aka I'm not sure if there's any more new issues coming out. The last one I know about was March of this year. I'm hoping more come out. I've actually enjoyed reading the graphic novel for the first 4 books that has recently come out, and have seen that there's another graphic novel and some companion books coming out here in a few months, actually. Now, the show runs in a certain format. You get two 11-minute episodes each. This is one of the things that I actually enjoy a lot about the show, is the fact that since the episodes are actually so small in and of themselves, there's not a lot of time for extra filler. So you actually get a lot of the meat and potatoes right there through the whole episode, and things that you think are filler actually aren't. But the comics, they run a little, I guess you could say, similar yet different. The comic books actually run in a format of you get one large story and then 2 little mini stories off to the side with each book. For example, in one of the first stories they have in the books, you actually have a story called Vacation, where the gems have just recently defeated a rogue gem, and they can't bubble it for some reason. It's too heavy to bubble, which is something I've not seen in the show yet, so I don't know if this is normally a thing or not. But while Pearl is stuck on this whole idea of bubbling or getting the rogue gem back to their home, Steven just wants the gems to take a break, take a vacation. You get the kind of the hint that they're not actually in Beach City for this one, which once again, in the show, you don't see them in Beach City. Well, you see them in Beach City a lot, but it's either Beach City or it's out in some, you know, space alien type area. You don't see them in just a whole nother town. Here in the book, they're actually, it's insinuated that they're actually in another city on Earth instead of just Beach City. Once again, haven't seen a lot of the episodes, so I don't know if this is something that's normal or not. Everything I've seen has been in Beach City or in some alien area for the gems. But going back to what I was saying, you get the base story here, and then past that, you get a little mini story with Lars and Sadie, and then another mini story having to do with the gems and Greg. Now, one thing to mention is these books are what's called level 2 canon. I actually did not know there was such a thing as levels to canons. This is a new thing for me, which I hate to say it, it's actually a little embarrassing being, into comics as much as I have for as long as I have. I've never heard of certain levels on canon. This is going to actually be something that I'm going to do some research on. But level 2 canon, by definition, according to everything I've seen, is and read, is the book itself is canon to the series as long as an episode in the series doesn't contradict the book in some way. The closest thing I've noticed to this is that there's an episode in Steven Universe where Steven asks Pearl if she likes pie, and Pearl says she loves pie. But in several episodes, you'll see that Pearl doesn't like eating or being around food very much. The writers of the show, I believe, have clarified that Pearl likes baking pie. She likes the whole, the ingredients and formula of pie, the actual baking of pie. Well, in the book, Greg asks the Gems if they've ever cooked before because he's trying to get a cake made for Steven. And Pearl just kind of leads off with which may not mean much of anything, but for anyone that's ever been asked, hey, I need a cake baked, do you guys know how to do this? A lot of people normally would at least say, well, I know how to bake pie, but I've never tried a cake before. Once again, this is me nitpicking, but this is also so far the closest thing to an example I can give you of an episode possibly overriding that level 2 canon I was mentioning. The characters are portrayed on here in, I believe, their first season outfits, except possibly Pearl, I think, maybe in her season 2 outfit. But once again, that's not really that's just getting to the point of overly nitpicking because at that point you're not really focusing on the best part of this, and that is the story. The stories in the comics are actually just as enjoyable as the show. And if you've ever watched the show, for those of you that watch the show, you know what I'm talking about, but for those of you who haven't, the show, the animation will throw you off to how deep the show can actually be. And that's another reason I want the books to keep going, is because the books do like any comic, like I mentioned in my past article with Mega Man, the books give you a chance to flesh out things you don't normally see on the screen, whether it's a video game or a cartoon or a movie. Books give you that extra opportunity there that you don't have because you're not constrained by actors or time limits or anything like that. I mean, you have a time limit to get your book published, but you don't have a time limit for filming or getting something on the screen quicker for an 11-minute episode as opposed to just making sure your story's the way you want it for the book. Now, I may be getting an overzealous here. Like I said, that I'm new to the show, and it's really swept me away. And so, like I said, picking up the book and reading it has been a joy. I really, really thank you, Tainty, for giving me this request. This has been by far just an amazing read for me. I've sat down and I'll tell you, I've reread this book several times now. And to kind of push this, kind of really get more people into giving this a chance, the whole premise to Steven Universe is you have these beings called crystal gems from another planet. Without getting into way too much detail, I don't want to spoil too much of anything, but the gems were part of a giant battle years ago. The ones that are still left on Earth, which are Pearl, Garnet, and Amethyst, were protecting the planet from other gems who wanted to basically take over the planet. And Steven is the child of a human and gem together. Greg being his dad, and Rose, who isn't on the show or in the comic because she had to give away her form for Steven, is his mother. Now, going from there, the gems spend their time trying to fight off rogue gems that are still left behind from the war, as well as trying to keep the homeworld from coming back to Earth to do any more damage. The gems themselves don't really age per se, so when they reference the battles and wars, they were from thousands and thousands of years ago. They've been on Earth for a while, but Stephen is kind of their third responsibility that they weren't really expecting of having. It kind of really throws them off, so they go between fighting these gems and protecting the planet to protecting Steven. And they've all taken on, whether it's a sisterly role or a motherly role in some cases, over Steven. Add to this their own personalities to a sense of, Garnet you have as a very stoic, he comes off as a serious, almost leader type role, to neurotic Pearl, who's always organized and overly clean, to carefree Amethyst that just loves eating and hanging out and just having fun and it's just random and everything. And you mix these Jim's personalities around Steven, and he's really growing up really fast because of all this, and there's just constantly stuff being thrown at him. He's discovering his powers, learning to perfect them, as well as trying to learn how to protect the planet without getting into too much trouble, but at the same time, trying to just be a regular little boy. Now, going back to the book itself, the art in this book it's really good. It matches the feel and the tone of what the stories themselves and the characters are portraying. It actually complements the show very well, and it really adds to the enjoyment you get of the book. With that said, there is one and only one drawback I'm going to give to this book, and that's that if you have never watched Steven Universe, you have no idea what this is at all. You're not going to get any kind of an origin tale or anything like that out of this book. It throws you right in, assuming you already know the characters and how they are and everything. So I definitely recommend watching a couple of episodes. You don't need much to already get the knowledge you need to be able to enjoy this book or enjoy Steven Universe. It lets you know everything you need to know right off the bat, and you know what you're getting into after just one episode. But I would definitely at least suggest watching at least one episode before picking up this book because of that. Kind of like if you've never played Sonic the Hedgehog, or you've never read or watched anything having to do with Superman or Spider-Man, and you may know a little bit about them just because of how popular they are, but let's say you've never been around them for whatever reason, you don't know what it is, and you just pick up a random book from the shelf. If it's not a book that's designed to capture a new reader, it's not going to have the right effect. And that's what this book does. It's not designed to capture new readers. That's the only drawback at all I can give you about this book. And if that's the worst thing I can tell you about a book, then that's saying how just amazing this book is. So, once again, I'm going to say thank you, Tainty, for recommending this book for me to have as the next issue. I highly recommend anyone to watch the show and pick up this book and give it a read. That's going to be it for me this week. Remember, just like Tainty, you guys can recommend anything that you want for me to review or go into or check out book-wise, and we'll have that as the next issue. Just all you have to do is sign up for Patreon. We are very thankful for everything you guys give us, including just watching us and viewing us. We very much love our fans, and we thank you for that. Also, don't forget to check out many of our other shows, both past and recent, of everything we've got on the Culture Cache. Also, something that our fans here at the Culture Cache may or may not have noticed, but we have partnered with Amazon.com. I mention this because if you enjoy any of the stories that I have reviewed so far, any of the characters or books that I have brought to you on the next issue, please feel free to click on the links for Amazon.com we have on the Culture Cache and check out some of the books that they have there that you can order and have delivered straight to your doorstep. And I will see you right here on the Culture Cache next week for the next issue.